Okay. So trauma wounds are the bad things that happen to you. So it's the big things that we always think about. Then there are attachment wounds, and the attachment wounds are the things that not a lot of people understand how to address. You'll hear a lot about attachment theory and what's your attachment style, and it's great that you might know your style, but big deal. We don't want to just know your style. We want to know how can we help you heal so that instead of having an anxious avoidant attachment or, whatever the attachment style you have, you can end up being securely attached so that you're not having all these relational difficulties. And so the attachment wounds come from the good things that should have happened that didn't. So trauma, the bad things that happened to you. Attachment, the good things that didn't happen but didn't, such as in Erica's situation. It sounds like it's all trauma, right? She was molested and then this event when she was an adult. But the reality was, at 12 years old, if someone's molesting you, you should have a safe space to be able to tell your parents, to have somebody step in and protect you and help you heal through that. And she didn't have that. In fact, can I say this, Erica?
Yes, you can tell all of it.
Not only didn't she have that, but of all of it, the thing that got her the most emotional was when she talked about her dad is going to think it's her fault and he's going to be mad at her. So when you pay attention to what is the thing that seems to be the most distressing, that's the attachment, right? My dad not only didn't protect me, so the good thing that should have happened, he also didn't support me and he didn't stand up for me. And so much so that I didn't feel like he was a safe space to go to tell this to. So in the end, we actually couldn't even do right because it wasn't about the trauma of the molestation. It was about the attachment wound of dealing with the dad. And then tell me, Erica, having dealt with the attachment wound and all of that misinformation that you got at 12, what happened with the trauma?
I feel so much better. Is that what you mean? What
Yeah,
happens
like,
with
did we
being
have
moved
to
out?
process the actual trauma?
No.
Right. And I
I mean,
see
we
this all the
process.
time. There are so many people who come to me who have been molested or were physically abused as kids, but really it's the attachment wounds that create the deepest depression and anxiety and all of those things. And when I help them process that, the traumas that you think you have to process through actually kind of take care of themselves. And this is the big shift that you're getting that a lot of people don't teach and don't understand. And I'm going to tell you, and I can say this with great confidence, when you learn this piece and you understand how to address the attachment wounds, you're going to see major shifts in your own patients. And people are going to come see you because they're going to be like, oh my gosh, I have to tell other people about this. I cannot believe the difference it's made in my life. So that is DNMS, which we're going to get into. I think we have like 3 more weeks before we get to that. Um, DNMS is an ego state therapy. It is like internal family systems, which is probably the one you've all heard about the most. Um, I love, love, love DNMS. I have a love-hate relationship with IFS. There's a big difference between the two. IFS generally teaches people that we all have all these parts of us, and they're all these different named parts. And it's the job of you as the adult part of you to manage all these parts. So when they get triggered, you work with them. And it's basically this lifelong, you got to keep working with these parts and keeping them under control and helping them. DNMS says, no, we don't have all these parts that we have to manage the rest of our lives. We have stuck parts of our brain as a result of attachment wounds, of developmental needs that we did not get emotionally, but we can go back and meet those developmental needs. And when that happens, and you help the wounded part that is stuck understand, one, this is an old recording. You guys don't have to write all this down because you're going to learn it all over 10 weeks. I'm just kind of giving you like an intro because, when this happened with Erica yesterday, it kind of, the part I want you to get is we got to look at those attachment wounds, right? So DNMS, when we do it, it's going to meet those developmental needs. So with Erica yesterday, the big wound was my dad's not a safe space. I'm a bad girl. He knows I'm bad. He blames me for everything. And the healing is and helping that little part of her brain that was stuck to know, one, you were never bad. Two, this was always about your dad having his own issues and never really being able to be the dad that you deserved. And three, empowering that little girl to know you are always beautiful and deserving of protection, and this should have never happened to you. Oh, and by the way, you're not even 12 anymore. And you'll be surprised to see how many people, when we work with the parts of them that are little kids, when you say, do you know you're not 12 anymore? They will usually very often say no. Because when we're working with that part of them, we're in the subconscious brain. So part of what I'll be bringing into what we're doing is, I'm certified in hypnosis. I'm not teaching you hypnosis, but I am going to teach you how to get them down into the state where we really need to work with the wounded parts and the neural networks where those parts from the past are stuck. So that's what happened with Erica yesterday. And no, we didn't record it because it wasn't right. Right meaning the trauma technique I teach. But that's what we're going to be doing when you guys come for the workshop. We're going to be doing lots and lots of DNMS, and you're going to see a lot of it in real time because I'm going to be working with anybody who gets triggered, who's willing to, work through whatever comes up. So, with that said, who did volunteer to do right with me? Was it you, Cynthia?
Yeah.
So we need to set up a time when you get a chance.
Okay. Okay.
So whether you have time to stay after we leave after tonight, or if you just want to message me some good times for you,
Okay.
we can do that. But let's just check with you. Is this a trauma that is related to kind of adulthood or just a one-time thing?
Yes.
Okay. Um, so, the big takeaway from this is trauma and attachment need two different approaches. EMDR is often touted as this is the way you deal with all trauma. And complex trauma, especially, has a lot of attachment connected to it. And many, many people who have complex trauma will end up very dysregulated from EMDR because it's like giving an antibiotic to a virus. It's not going to help. And so when you are trying to do a trauma technique, which is what EMDR is, to heal an attachment wound, you can have all kinds of issues come up with the client. And then unfortunately, if the person doesn't understand this, they end up telling their client, well, you're not stable enough to do this. But the reality is it's not about the client, it's about the approach. And so you're going to know by the time we're done this, how do I know? Is it a trauma wound? Is it an attachment wound? And which technique am I using to work with a person? So,
So, oh no, I
yeah.
was going to say, Tracy, that's so interesting because one of the themes I'm seeing, or I've been seeing for a long time in my own life, but also in my practice too, is that there's like, I'll just give you an example of one person I have. She's a woman in probably like her mid 40s, and she's struggling with alcoholism. And she drinks, but and she has these terrible intrusive thoughts. And so we've been trying all different things to try to help her get better. Like she's been in therapy, we've tried GLPs, like treating her for, like ADHD, that kind of stuff to kind of help quiet her internal chatter. And like for a couple of years now, me and her therapist have been encouraging her to like, just reach out to her family for help, or just let her mom or her know that she's struggling with alcohol. And over the summer, she actually did. She had a good talk with her mom and she told her like that, she is an alcoholic and, um, she's been going to AA and everything. And, I meet with this woman like every 3-ish weeks or so. And then, she's struggling a lot. She's like an athletic, she played basketball in college. She's the athletic director for like a local college, a very accomplished woman, um, not married, no children, has a dog. But she said, and I was like, all right, well, what role has your family played? And she said her mom has not said a word to her about it, even though her mom was very loving when she told her about it. It's like her mom just has not shown up for her. And I feel like that's a huge wound that seems to be a theme in a lot of people, where it's like you kind of let the people that or that should be caring for you know, like, oh, I'm struggling, and then nothing.
Well, but see, here's part of the problem.
Yeah. Okay.
when we turn to the people who should care,
Yeah,
we are often turning to the people who have caused the issue, right? It's like,
exactly. Yeah.
and I say this to my clients a lot, like they so desperately want their parents to be who they need them to be, or their sister or their brother or whoever. And it's like, some people just don't have the tools. If I
Mhm.
put a cardiologist in front of you and said, go see this person for a brain tumor, am I sending you to the right person? It's,
No.
it's the same. There's no written rule that just because you have a child, you know how to be the best person for that child.
Mhm.
And part of the way that we empower our clients is to say sometimes we have to love our parents with their flaws and get the resources we need. Like when they show us who they are, believe it, right? And we're going to get into this history taking and doing the genogram and doing a family history. And if you
Mhm.
never ever do any of the skills I teach you, just that bit, I actually just had a conversation today with someone who was in the last cohort who told me she's got this woman she's working with and she's so much better just from the psychoeducation.
Mhm.
Because when people will often think I'm the issue, especially someone who's got abuse issues, right? In this week, you learned about the neurobiology of trauma and the HPA axis and all the things that go on with trauma. And when you don't have good coping skills and your body feels like bleh, and you emotionally feel like bleh, you're going to reach for something to make you feel better because you don't have the tools to do it any other way. And by the way, I'm probably reaching for that thing because the people who made me feel this way are the ones I'm turning to for support. So they're reinforcing it. It becomes this vicious cycle. And so I will say this, I have learned people who have that chatter, and I know from my own experience, the chatter, they're wounded parts of self. And when they get the attention that they need, the chatter stops. But we have to work with the wounded parts. And there's a wounded part of her who is using alcohol to cope. Now,
Yeah.
there's a, you know, it's a fine line we got to walk with people who have alcohol and drug issues, right? Because depending on how deep into addiction they are, there is going to be a physiological component too that is going to need its own separate. But when we deal with the underlying wounds that are there so that they can heal, the person's not white knuckling their way through life trying to deal with these things. So,
Mhm.
yeah, probably what's happening is every time she turns to those family members, it's just ripping the wound open again. You're rubbing salt in the wound. So, part of the lesson for her might be, okay, so it's not that your mom hates you or she's out to get you. I mean, I genuinely believe most parents want to do the best job they can, right? And they don't know what they don't know, and they don't know what they don't have to give. But if her mom has her own things that maybe it's triggering something in her when her daughter told her this, so she's in shutdown mode because it's easier just to
Mhm.
put my head in the sand than to have to address this.
Yeah, it's easier to be an ostrich. And I think this is why I think I was kind of called where I was like, ooh, I need to reach out to you because I feel like this is a theme I'm seeing in my practice and I don't know like how to work through it with some people because it's something that I struggle with in my own life. Like a family that's just unresponsive or unable to be or just unable to have the conversation. Even if they say like, I understand you're hurting, but I don't think I'm capable to help you. Like most people who are not capable don't have the capability to do that.
Right.
And so I guess when we had to go through the triggering things, I was like, that was something that came up for me is like, and then it's like almost my patients that are stuck, it's like, are they stuck because I'm stuck there too? Like I thought that was just very compelling. That was very like, ooh,
So aha moments this week for you.
yes, a lot. That was one of them.
And remember last week I said, and I'll say this over and over again, you're only going to take your patients as far as you've taken yourself.
Exactly. And that's what I saw. I was like, because just some patients that are struggling in their marriage or like same thing, just struggling. It's like they're struggling because they need some kind of support to help them get through. And it's like the patients that are able to gain that support, like you can, because part of it is like we're not meant to be like individual, hyper, individual, like what is that word called? Like it's like a stereotype for woman, like the hyper independence, like I can do it all on my own. Like we're not meant to be that way. We need support in order to help us get through and to help us work through our issues. But like, how do we, like, I mean, for people who don't have that support, like for people who
Well,
can
so
get
here's
that
the
support
thing.
and accept it, do well. Yeah.
It's good to have support from healthy people, right? But those
Yeah.
wounds that were created in childhood, those attachment wounds, often what
Yeah.
happens, we grow up feeling icky, and then we are reaching externally for whatever we can, for the person, for the thing, for the drug, for the pill that's going to make us feel better.
Mhm.
And what people don't understand is it all is inside of us. Everything you need. Erica, yesterday you had a 12-year-old little girl who was sad and lonely and blamed. And what did she need? You're muted.
Acceptance and love.
And what did she get?
Acceptance and, well, you mean yesterday?
Yeah.
What did you get
Yep.
yesterday?
Yep.
Acceptance and love. Yeah.
And how does she feel now?
Like a badass.
You guys, I'm telling you, if you had seen Erica yesterday morning,
It was not good.
this is the magic of DNMS.
Mhm.
So hang in because you're going to
Mhm.
learn it. And you are going to learn how to help people get in touch with the parts of themselves and let them know they have everything they need inside of them. They are their best support. And then once you get there, then you're going to be able to discern who are the best people to be my external support system. But I'm not dependent on everyone else to help me get by every day. I'm empowered to help myself while I have a healthy support system around me. And I can choose to be around my family. My mother, total narcissist, but I still have her in my life because I choose to, but I have to know the rules of having a narcissistic mother. In the past,
Mhm.
I would have collapsed and been sad when, things went a certain way because I thought it was about my worth and it wasn't about my worth. It was about her own abuse and what it did to her personality and now what I've had to grow up with. That's a very different perspective. And when we can empower those wounded parts and help them not only to not be wounded anymore, but to actually not be a child, that 12-year-old is actually a grown woman who is empowered
Mhm.
and is very smart and has all this going for her. She just didn't know it yet. She does now.
Thank you again. You have no idea.
You're welcome. And what was important about yesterday, I think, because I have a lot of people ask me, because I do intensives, can we do this in short bursts? The answer is yes. I mean, Erica yesterday, I don't even think it was 45 minutes we spent. And it created this huge shift. Now, to be fair, I've done this for a while, so I can really succinctly put things into 45 minutes. But, it's testament to the power of doing this work. And I'm really going to push you guys to step into doing it because it's going to feel weird. You're going to, when I ask you to talk to parts, you're going to feel weird. You're going to be like, I don't understand. I'm talking to a child, but there's an adult in front of me. Yep, just go with it.
It's
It's going to be
super
okay.
weird. I haven't done DNMS, but I've done IFS personally and got to it because I was a very intellectual, logical sort of thing, and it wasn't working for me. So it was super hokey, and I've been doing it for almost a year, and it's still hard for me to get there sometimes, but it is cool
Well,
you can make that connection.
and you'll see with the NMS, I mean, I felt the same way about IFS, both as a provider and as a patient. To
Mhm.
have to show up and draw pictures of my parts and it just like none of that, no. When you do DNMS, the beauty of it is the person self-discovers. If you're triggered, so one of the things we had to do this week is look at your triggers. So
Mhm.
anybody want to talk about something they noticed this week, a trigger you had?
I have plenty.
All right, throw one at us, Gene.
All right. So, I mean, I don't want to take over if anybody else wants one, but I noticed my frequent triggers, like, especially in this, it's like, because I wanted to look at what my patients do to trigger me, but also how I'm triggered in my personal life. Um, and it's just like maybe my experience as being like a woman who's done a lot of, like I was like one of the first women in a combat roles in the military. And then, um, a lot of the things I've done in my life. And it just like, so a lot of political stuff is extremely triggering for me now. Like just seeing things where like somebody calling somebody young lady or being condescending or, do as you're told, or this is how it is, like anything where like we don't embrace like everybody, it's like, okay, we're all a part of this. Like that gets me so angry. Like when there are people that are being just ignored or dismissed or not listened to.
Okay, so
Um,
that's the trigger, right? That
yes,
happen
yeah.
all the time in life.
Yeah, it happened in my childhood too. Like I went back and I
Well, I'm
just like so
just
many,
stick
yeah.
with adulthood though. For many of us,
Okay.
do we experience that?
Yeah.
And does everybody get triggered when that happens? Are there people that experience that and they are able to move through it and see it for what it is and it doesn't cause them to kind of get dysregulated and meltdown?
Sure, yeah. I mean, like for me, sometimes sometimes that happens, sometimes I get dysregulated, sometimes I doesn't, but it's like it turns into like this annoyance and like instead of shallow breathing, it's like heavy breathing. And then I think I get defensive and sometimes I talk too much then, or I over explain because I'm feeling like I realize it's triggering, the little girl, the teenager, but then also the young woman that I was that got like told I shouldn't be here, or
Right.
that
So if
kind of,
you stop and think about the feeling that you have in the moment,
yeah,
what is the feeling?
it's it's anger. And then I realized it's frustration. It's a lot of frustration. It's a lot of sadness. And then it's like fear too. There's a lot of fear where
Okay,
it's
see
like,
now,
uh-huh,
close your eyes for me.
okay.
As you go into that, the anger and the frustration and the sadness that you're feeling,
Mm-hmm.
and you check in with the feeling,
Mm-hmm.
does it feel like your most adult self or does it feel younger?
It feels like um I'm advocating for like all these young people that are being dismissed or not accounted for or not
But
listened
that's
to.
what your adult self is doing, but now you're getting away from the feeling. So
Okay.
we're talking
Right.
about doing, but I want you to be being right now.
Okay.
So staying
Okay.
with yourself and these feelings that you get of being,
It's like that feeling. It's like, Mom, you're not listening to me,
okay,
or
so
you're not
go into
listening to
that.
me.
So that
Yeah. Okay.
frustration of I'm not being heard.
Yeah. Hmm.
For you, does that feel younger or like your most adult self?
It definitely feels younger.
Okay, so Jordan, here's a huge difference between IFS and DNMS. We help them recognize this is a younger part of me. I
Hmm.
don't want her to name the part. I don't need her to name the part. I already know
Hmm.
this is a younger self who something happened to this part of her that caused it to get stuck. And so now, when something happens in life today that is similar to that past experience, record or play gets pressed on the recording because this is an old recording that gets played when something happens today. And so as we work through these wounds, now she's saying, I think it's related to the military. My guess is it's much earlier. I think the
Hmm.
military was another symptom on top of what was already happening in your life, most
It
likely.
was the same thing of being like demeaned, like that same thing that I got when I was young, like being
Right.
demeaned, or like, you don't know what's best for you. I know what's best for you. Or like, you shouldn't be here. Like, I don't want you here, so I'm not going to respect you. That kind of stuff. But really, like, that's what I got when I was little too. So it's like that
Right.
whole
So the
connection.
military was just more of the same.
Right.
And
Hmm.
so as we get into DNMS and we start working with clients, we're going to ask these questions. So when you check in with that feeling, does it feel like your most adult self or does that feeling feel younger? And sometimes they'll give us a gift because they'll say to you, well, part of me feels like I'm 8 years old when this happens. Okay, well, thank you for letting me know that. But
Hmm.
I don't want the details of who the part is and let's name the part and all that stuff. I want to know how does the part feel and what does the part need? Because DNMS is about meeting the need. So yesterday with Erica, that part needed to feel empowered. She needed to feel wanted and like she wasn't at fault. And those are genuine needs of children.
So what came up for me when you were saying that is, and I don't mean if I'm bogarting this, just please let me know and I'll but like I had this thing, I wanted to get um my mom, I hate the word tomboy. And it's just like why do we, like, you're just a girl, like who cares? But I was labeled a tomboy when I was little. And remember, I wanted to cut my hair short because I hated having to brush my hair and make, like all the stuff that they made girls do back in the day. And I wanted to get my hair cut short. My mom took me for a haircut. I was 4 or 5 years old, and I kept saying I wanted short like a boy, because I didn't want to have to do it. And then the lady's cutting my hair, and then they turn me around, and my hair was like shoulder length. And I remember getting so mad because I'm like, but I wanted it short. And then my mom and the lady cutting my hair saying, but it is short, and I was like, no, it's not. It's not what I wanted. I told you I wanted it like short, like a boy, like short. And I remember like just being so angry about that. And then everybody acting like I was crazy. And I was like 4 or 5 years old. So that's like
But
the
okay, so
first,
that's really important because
yeah.
when we're doing this, ideally, we're
Mhm.
going to go back to the youngest age that the person can connect with, because these messages form on neural networks in our brains.
Okay.
So just like, we have all these neurons that have no job when we're born, right? And so we get the walking neurons and the talking neurons and the crawling neurons and whatever it is, but we can develop neural networks that say, you don't matter. You suck. I'm not important. And so when we work with parts of self that are stuck, and we can get to the root of the neural network, if I can empower that 4-year-old to realize, you know what, this wasn't about you. This was about your mom and her not wanting to have a child who looked like a boy, probably. I don't know. We'd have to get into it. But you were amazing and you did nothing wrong. But that 4 or 5-year-old experience for Jeannie primed her brain to believe I'm never heard. Nobody listens
Right.
to me. And so
Mhm.
now it makes perfect sense to me that as a grown adult with all these experiences you've had, it pisses you off that people don't listen. But what we want people to be able to do in their adulthood is to say, okay, if somebody's not listening to me, they don't care about what I have to say, I don't need to have them around me. I'll find someone else who will listen. When we're a kid, we're stuck. And so when we're constantly shushed, and the big theme in my life was children were meant to be seen and not heard. But a developmental need is to be heard and to be seen. It doesn't mean that you always get your way, but it means you're seen and you're heard and your feelings are validated. And then the parent has to make the best decisions based off of, whatever the situation is. And so, imagine even if your mom had taken the time to say, look, I know you really want it that short, but how about we just try it like this, see if you like it like this. And if you don't, at least some compromise. And
Or
then,
just acknowledgement of like, oh, I hear what you're saying,
right,
but
exactly.
like we can't do this right now.
So
Yeah.
I want you guys, we did the superficial, let's look at the triggers, right? And the physical response it's giving you. But I want you to get really curious about when you see you're getting triggered about something. Where is this coming from? What is the feeling? Does it feel younger than my actual adult self? Anybody else have a trigger you want to talk about or share that you noticed?
Mine is similar to what she was saying, but it's with customer service. Like, I feel like nowadays when you talk to people on the phone, I don't know if it's just the younger generations, like there's a lack of skill of listening when people speak. And I just find that sometimes or oftentimes you talk to people on the phone, customer service, whether it be like the phone company or whatever, anything any place that offers customer service, and they say, "Oh, how can I help?" And then you explain your problem, and then they basically answer. They don't fully listen, and they answer based off of what they think you said or assumptions, or they only half listen. And I feel like it's a thing nowadays in society where just people just don't like hear you, and they answer back to you, but it's like assumptions, or they just, it's like I didn't even it's like, what are you responding to? Because I didn't even say anything about that, or that's not what I, you know, and so that's one of my triggers.
And so what
And that's
happens when
and that's
you feel
and
that?
it's similar, you know, and it goes back to childhood of also not being heard and being dismissed and not being validated as well.
What happens to you in the moment when that happens? What do you notice it does?
Oh, I just get very frustrated.
And so it's got to put a wrench in your day, I'm sure.
Oh, it doesn't like, you know, I don't, something like that won't like, you know, destroy my whole day or anything. But in the moment, I'm just like, oh, what, you know, they're not listening. That's not what I
Like
said.
freaking A, why are we still doing this? Why don't people just effing listen? Kind of, like that. Ah.
Yeah, and I just noticed that. And I don't know where it's coming from or but I just noticed that that is a common thing with people nowadays with I don't know if it's just younger people, it's just customer service or maybe it's more language barrier. I don't know. I just find that that happens where I explain something and and they'll answer back, but I'm like, no, that's not what I said, or that's not, you know, what I'm asking, you know?
So how do you deal with that in the moment?
So I just, you know, I'm just frustrated. And I was like, no, I was like, no, this, you know, I have to, you know, I find like repeating myself, you know, several times.
Is this like on the phone or someone you actually deal with all the time?
No, these are just like customer service people. Like, for example, I just called because the ring because my camera no longer I can't, you know, I was on the phone with somebody and trying to get it connected and they eventually sent me out a new one. But you know, when I'm explaining to them what's going on, they're saying, "Oh, it's this," and I'm like, "No, that's not what I said."
Like they're trying to find a solution, the easy solution to just be like, okay, now we can fix it instead of really listening to problem solve with
I
you.
don't know. I don't know. I don't know.
So
Um, maybe people are just they're multitasking, they're doing multiple things, and so they're not really hearing what
so
you're
what options do you have to help that situation get better?
um, you know, sometimes I try to talk slower, you know, to see if it's like a language barrier. You know, because sometimes I do talk fast. Slow down, repeat myself.
How can you ensure that they're understanding what you're saying?
Um, well, I mean, I don't want to be like condescending either. Like, well, do you, and say like, did you hear what I said? You know, so I just kind of,
Well, you don't have to say it like that, but you can say, I feel like we're miscommunicating. Can you please tell me what you hear me saying? Right? And if that doesn't work, what's your other option?
well, sometimes if we're not getting anywhere, because there's times where I'm like, okay, I don't know if there's a language barrier or what, but I feel like we're not connecting at all. Like you're not hearing what I'm saying. And I said, you know, can I speak to somebody else? I'm sorry, but I have to, you know, can I speak to somebody else?
There you go.
Yeah.
And so for you, I mean, we're going to deal with people like that all the time, right?
Yeah. Hmm.
Then it will be about checking in with who is this part of me that's so irritated by this right now. And you're right. I mean, if you're saying, that's how it was for you when you were little, it's a grabbing that girl and saying, you know what, this other person, we have nothing to do with her. Why she's acting like that, I don't know. But I got this as a grown adult. I'm not going to let her rattle me. I'm going to move on to the next person. Or, I'm going to get clear with her and make sure she understands what I'm saying.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, it is true in this world that we live in. Their brains are in 50 different places.
Yeah.
Oftentimes, I think we're all guilty of that as well, right? We got 100 things going on and we're not as present as we should be. And we're already in this stress mode, which messes up what you learn about the brain. We need to be in our prefrontal cortex to be able to be present and to hear what is being said and to respond appropriately. And I think probably maybe 1% of the population is there these days. So, but being able to have our own inner calm so that when people are acting like that, we're able to say, okay, you gonna be like this? I'm hanging up the phone. I'll try the next guy because this is, or I'm gonna get your boss on the phone.
Yeah, that's normally what I do. And I sometimes like I had an issue with the electric company, and I had spent hours on the phone setting up payment plans or something, or setting something up, and I had to make a down payment to get this something started. And the person who I spent probably, I don't know, probably 3 or 4 hours with, she documented all our stuff, but then she never set it up because I think maybe she was new. And that's the other thing. A lot of companies have high turnover rates. Nobody can keep people. And so I think people are constantly being new and having to learn things, and they're learning you go to T-Mobile. I remember going to T-Mobile one time, asked a question. He's like, "Oh, let me Google it." Um,
Oh,
so, um, yeah, so I was on, so then I had to and I called back a couple times, and I talked to, and they're like, nope, you have to do the a down. And I had put like $500 down for this thing. And, they're like, no, you have to do it again. And I'm like, so I ended up talking to probably finally having to escalate it up, because they don't want to. Like, no, I'm helping you. No, you're not. So after escalating it, I finally, got it taken care of, but took several hours.
yes, that can be very frustrating for anybody, let alone somebody who's got a very frustrated little child inside of them. Like, why doesn't anybody ever hear me?
Right.
So, the goal is with us and our clients, we want people to be able to deal with frustrations like that as their grown adult self and not pulling along old experiences that are also informing the current situation. That, that's a lot of times when things kind of go off the rails. People lose their cool, they come out of their prefrontal cortex, they're stuck in their limbic system, and things can escalate quickly. But when we're empowered and able and recognize, yep, I can get frustrated, but I'm able to handle this. I'm not going to let this person get to me because I don't know what's going on with them. Then we're able to move through it better. Thanks. Anybody else? No other triggers?
Oh yeah, I have a few triggers.
Oh, you go ahead.
Who's speaking? You can go ahead.
No, 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 go ahead.
Okay. So for me, I guess it's along the same lines with I get triggered when I feel like I'm doing someone else's job when I'm supposed to be getting customer service. And I really try to be patient and think of all the things, but at some point I have to protect my energy and my peace. So like I had an ADT call, my ADT's acting up, and they had the wrong name. I gave them all the right information. When I called back, everything was messed up. And I was finding myself getting extremely irritated. And I was explaining all this stuff, and it wasn't making any sense what they were telling me. And I'm like, you know what, guys? Don't even worry about coming out here. I can find a smaller security system to get hooked up with because it's not even worth all this trouble. So I said, you have a great day. Got the phone, and I was at peace. And then they started calling me and calling me and calling me. I'm like, please, just I'll find somebody else. Then they had the local person to call me and say, hey, we dropped the ball. We know you're very frustrated. It doesn't make a lot of sense. We are a big company and we don't communicate well. I said, ma'am, I appreciate it, but please don't waste my time. I've already decided to go elsewhere. But she made these special accommodations and they're going to come out and fix it. And I'm like, well, it's a win because I have all their equipment all through my house. So it ended up working out. And in the past, I would get really frustrated because, the child in me was always, I didn't feel like I was heard. And then, my mother was a binge drinker. So on the weekend, I mean, she would be a helicopter mother during the week when she was sober on the weekends. I would have to take care of her, bring her to bed, and do all this other stuff. So I would get really frustrated when I felt like things weren't run how they were supposed to be. Like someone's talking to me like I'm stupid, but I'm doing all the work. So that used to really, really, really get under my skin. So now before I get really irritated, because everyone gets irritated, you know, it's human nature, but I fall back before I feel my blood boil, start to boil, and say, is this really worth it getting this mad? There's other security systems out here. And
Right.
that's how I calm myself now. But yeah, that was used to be a big trigger, someone trying to make me feel stupid, but yet I'm doing all the work and getting stuff done because I felt that growing up. Like, you're telling me what to do, but you can't even get up the stairs, you know? That kind of thing.
And that's the difference. And sometimes we have to help our clients understand this too. Like, we're allowed to get frustrated, right? It's a normal human experience. We're allowed to have anger. But when the trigger happens, it's to the nth degree. You know, people are screaming and cursing, or, you know, whatever it is, they're going off the rails. And then, so you, of course, it's going to be frustrating what happened. But as your adult self, you were like, all right, I'm frustrated with this. They don't need my business. I'm moving on. Just like that. You know, oftentimes we'll have clients, especially with a lot of attachment wounds, they'll be like, they're out to get me. They don't care about me. They're not worrying about you. That is the last thing on their mind. But that little kid inside of them who feels like nobody cares about me is now putting that on to everyone they're dealing with in their life. And so, you know, it's really about helping people we're going to increase their perspective on the situations in their lives, because when there are parts of them that are stuck, they have blinders on and they can't see beyond their own selves. And when we have attachment wounds, we can look at situations and think it's about us, when really people aren't thinking about you at all. They're just trying to get by their own day. So, you know, and sometimes on the superficial level, right, before we're really getting into the deep stuff, just those conversations with our clients about, you know, but did you ever consider that maybe they're not even thinking about you? Maybe this had nothing to do with you, and that person was just having a bad day. If I had $1 for every time I had somebody say to me, no, I never even thought about that. Okay, well, let's just expand your awareness a little bit here to think. Complex PTSD in and of itself is a very self-centered issue. And I don't mean from look at me, I'm amazing, but more from the perspective of I think I am the root problem of everybody's issues. And so we have to help people start coming outside of themselves and considering other options when they are making the conclusions that they're making about things that they're dealing with in their lives. Well, thank you for that. What were you going to say, Cynthia?
So, I mean, the very, very long-standing stuff, but I get very triggered by my mother. Love her to death, but she triggers the heck out of me. So this past week, so I'm going through a divorce. I'm in the middle of a divorce, and there were 3 stepchildren that were part of that marriage. And the 2 oldest ones, my soon-to-be ex-husband moved back to Massachusetts. I stayed in Texas with the 2 oldest girls, and the youngest one went back with him. So the 2 oldest girls live with they stay with my mom. And she just has a very condescending way of talking all the time well, not all the time, but very frequently, of, talking to me, talking to the girls, talking to, like even my son and my daughter-in-law. And this past week, my oldest stepdaughter, she had left her school laptop here, and the charger was plugged in, and the charger got misplaced, and we're in the process of moving, and my mom's been like kind of helping pack up my current house, and like the charger got misplaced or something, and my mom is notorious for moving things and then they are never to be seen ever again. And so my daughter and my stepdaughter is looking for this charger, and my mom is like, well, everything that was there, I put it right there. And so she's going on, and like just completely flat out refusing to acknowledge that maybe I did put it somewhere else and I just don't remember. And so my stepdaughter's getting frustrated, my mom is getting frustrated, I'm getting frustrated. And like that's just the thing with my mom is when she says something, that something either happened or didn't happen, like in her head, it is just set 100%. I am 100% correct. And like, I try to ask her, like, you don't think that it is slightly possible, like even within the slightest realm of possibility, that maybe you did put it somewhere else and you just don't remember, or that you moved it and you don't remember? But yeah, on other days she'll be like, oh my God, my brain is so, scattered, and I think I have dementia and like all this other stuff. But when she has something in her head that she is bright about, there is no budging her whatsoever. And there were like several episodes of that, even just What Are We Barely Wednesday, like several of those little incidents between Sunday and now. And it frustrates me to no end. And I try to be patient and I try to be understanding. I mean, she also, we just lost my dad last December. So we're also coming up on the anniversary, and she's got all these mixed emotions that I try to be, understanding of and everything. But I mean, it's not like this is something new to her. She's kind of always been this way, and it triggers me to no end.
Okay, so what do you do about it?
I mean, before now, I feel like I handle it much better now. Like I'll just kind of like, okay, sure, you left it, or you didn't move it, okay, fine, no problem. And that's just been like very, like in the last couple of maybe a month to two at the most, that I'll just kind of like, okay, and just kind of let her believe whatever it is that she believes to have happened without any other possibilities. So I feel like I've gotten a little bit better, but it's still like I can still feel it inside, like my adrenaline, and I get frustrated and my heart starts racing, and I get all of these big emotions, but that I feel internally. But outwardly I just kind of like, okay, no problem, I'll see if I can find it. But yeah.
And so, that's a good example of what's happening with your nervous system when that's happening, right? You're having all those icky feelings on
Yes.
the inside. Your nervous system is jacked up because
Yes.
of the experiences that you're having with your mother. And so I'm going to say something here that may or may not rock your world, but it's something I want you guys to help your clients understand. People will often say things like, she triggers me, he triggers me, that triggers me. Nothing triggers us. Hear me.
Right.
Nothing triggers us. We get triggered.
Yes.
Nervous system overreacts to something that is happening. Very often, something subconscious that is happening that we don't even know is happening, because our subconscious mind drives how much of what we do? 95%. And so what we do is we get up in our conscious brain and we say, well, don't let her get to you. You shouldn't, that's how she is, deal with it, right? But your subconscious and your conscious are not connecting unless you make them connect. And you go into that space that's holding all of this and help meet it where it is. So we want to help our clients understand, because I have so many people who come and just like, they try to manage every person in their life because they trigger me. And that's not fair to the people in our lives. It's not fair to us, because we don't want
Right.
our inner experience to be dependent upon the behavior of those around us.
Right.
And so for you, part of this is going to be, you said your mom's been like this your whole life, right? This is a mom issue.
Yes.
Your system needs to get unstuck from the past, one, and get an update to learn, wait a minute, this woman is who she is. I can't do a thing about it. She has
Right.
as much emotional control over me as Daffy Duck does. And when you can get to that space, she can do whatever she wants to do. I mean, obviously, you got to have boundaries around this. We're not going to have people be abusive. There's a lot of verbal abuse or things like that. We can't allow that to go on.
Right.
I mean, you're describing my own mother, quite honestly. And, I remember those moments of like, oh my gosh, I cannot take another minute of this. Now it literally, I kind of chuckle on the inside because it's so predictable, right?
Yeah.
Last Mother's Day, my daughter had given me a bouquet of flowers, and I put them in a vase, and I filled it with water, and I was standing at my sink washing dishes when my mother got to my house. And it was like 2 hours later, and I happened to look up and I saw the vase was almost out of water, where the flowers had sucked up all the water, and my mom rang the doorbell, and I went into this little bit of a panic, like, oh my gosh, she's gonna make such a big deal of the fact there's no water in that. But I caught myself and I was like, I'm not taking my hands out of the dishes that I'm in the middle of doing because she's gonna make some comment. Like, that's an issue with her, not me. And I thought, and we're gonna test her and see what happens. But I know my mom well enough to know, like, the first thing she sees that's off, she's gonna make a comment about it. Man, it's Mother's Day. She's at my house. I'm cooking dinner. Do you think she says hello? How you doing? Happy Mother's Day? No, she walks in, instantly sees the vase and goes, "Oh, where'd the flowers come from?" And I said, "My daughter gave them to me." And she goes, "Well, you must not care about them." And I knew exactly what she was saying. You didn't put water in the vase. And I was like,
Hmm.
it took everything in me just not to laugh. Because at that point, I'm like, they're so predictable. And what must it be like to be in their brain? That they're constantly
Yeah.
scanning for what's the next thing that I can make a comment about or I'm not going to be happy about. And I'm just like, I've done nothing wrong. She's not getting my goat anymore.
Yeah.
So we want to help people understand this is your nervous system. So how can we calm your system so that no matter who is around you, we cannot control other people's thoughts, feelings, and actions. We can't control
Right.
what they say. All we can control is what's going on inside of us. I didn't put the Jimmy Fallon roller coaster video in that talk, that I would have been too fun for you. There's a really good video. When I do public, like, big talks, I play this clip of Jimmy Fallon and Kevin Hart going on a roller coaster together. And Jimmy Fallon's like having a ball on it, and Kevin Hart is losing his mind. And the point of it is to say they're both exposed to the same stressor, right? The roller coaster is the stressor. We all get exposed to many of the same stressors, but how we respond is largely dependent on our past experiences and if those past experiences are driving our current response. And when we acknowledge those past experiences and or heal them if we need to, in the present, we can respond as our present self in a calm way that doesn't have to overtake our lives. So our goal with our clients is always going to be to empower them to now go inward and understand they must take responsibility for their ability to respond. And we want to hold their feet to the fire a little bit and make sure they understand, yeah, it sucks. You might have had this horrible childhood where you were beaten and all these awful things happened to you. But in the here and now, you don't get to be a jerk because those things happened. You can feel bad, you can grieve it, you can, we can talk through it, but you got to control this now. Just like if somebody pushed you down and broke your leg when you were a kid and you had a limp your whole life, then you're an adult and you can figure out, oh, actually there's people out there that can help heal this leg so I can walk straighter. And something I really want you guys, as you're working on this stuff, I have a lot of people in this course that get caught up in the history. They get very overwhelmed when they have people with trauma who come in and they don't know what to do with the story. I want you to do your best to start to shift your focus. Their story is important to them, but for your work, the story is just information. What you want to know about the most is what is their current issue? Why are they coming? They think they're coming. Let's just say this person said they came because they were molested. Okay, that's fine. But why are you in therapy? Why are you seeking help? What's going on in your life today that you would like to see change? Because sometimes people could have had something happen as a kid and they think that's the thing that should be making them feel bad. And so that's what they're focused on. But then you got to come back to, but what is happening today? And it is that thing actually feeding this issue you're having today. Many, many times, people who are dealing with persistent anxiety and depression, they have these attachment wounds that they don't even know they had. And when you can get to them, you're really going to help heal the root of that depression. You'll have a lot of people sit in front of you and say, I don't even know why I feel this way. No, nothing, I never had any trauma in my life. But then when you help them understand the importance of attachment and the wounds that those attachment wounds can create and how we can help shift them out of it, their lives will change exponentially. So, how about you, Jordan? Anything exciting?
Asking about like triggers, you mean?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so I would say like broadly the theme of confrontation. I most commonly see it come up like with patient interactions, like when I'm most heavily affected by it, but I also have it happen like if I'm interacting with somebody on social media or if there's a conflict with a family member that I wasn't expecting, etc. But I think probably most commonly it's patient focus is when those things are hard for me.
And what happens? How do you react?
How do I react? It is very much like that sympathetic fight or flight response where it is, I get sh like short of breath, pounding in the chest, shakiness. I start to have a really hard time articulating and like thinking in a logical manner and getting my point across. A lot of like like just can't quite get it across, even though like it's about something that like I understand and I know and we have like XYZ to back up my argument. For some reason, I feel like that confrontation for whatever reason is it's a scary thing for me. Um and oftentimes it's not even that big of a deal. Like we work through it and it's just fine. But for whatever reason, that's my initial reaction.
Is it a fear of confrontation?
I mean, maybe in some regards, like some ways that it may come up is like, new patient requests, get the intake paperwork, start reading through the intake paperwork, and like I get this, like I start painting this picture, like creating this theme or story in my head, right? And I know that that's a trap because half the time it's worse on paper than it is in real life, but like, you see somebody coming in where you're seeing all of these red flags and they're kind of requesting XYZ, and you're already anticipating that you're going to have to
Hmm.
say no, set the boundaries, do all of these things, and you start to create these scenarios of what's going to go wrong, how are they going to react, and um, sometimes it doesn't go that way, and people like truly just want help and they're appreciative of that. But sometimes, right, you do get the people that come in that are drug seeking
So it's like,
or
so
maybe,
it's almost
yeah.
like a fear of like if they're going to react in a confrontational way.
Right,
Is that
right.
what you're saying?
Fear of a verbal attack, maybe?
Yeah, yeah. I think it's concern and fear for how are they going to react or what are they going to say to this. But also, there can be times too where that's happening and like I'm kind of feeling activated at the beginning and the session is going relatively well or whatever, but I know that I'm going to have to like deliver this blow and I'm like, yeah, are they going to be pissed? Are they going to throw something? Are they going to yell at me? Are they going to leave me a bad review for my clinic? And then, it starts to like kind of spiral into
Mhm.
the catastrophizing.
So I have something similar, but it's kind of the opposite. It's like the same but different. Where like, and I think it's, and when we talk about the childhood stuff, where my thing is like I'm confrontational, but I don't think I'm confrontational as in like, oh, I got to tell you everything that's wrong with you. But it's like, okay, like I'm a big fan of like, all right, what's the big elephant in the room? And like, let's go say hello to that big elephant in the room and talk to it. Like that's like kind of the analogy. And it's like some people will avoid the elephant in the room at all costs, and then other people like are really like they just want to talk about it. And I find that I'm somebody that I get frustrated with people who are more avoiders. And so I feel like there's two types of people, and I might be like making this oversimplifying it, and I'm sure I am. It's like I feel like there's avoiders and then confronters, and then it's like avoiders run from confronters, which makes the confronters want to chase the avoiders. And it's almost like it's like you're fearful or not fearful, but not fearful of the confrontation, but fearful that it's going to go badly.
Well, see,
Wow,
And
20
then
years
it's
also a
ago,
like,
lot of
where's,
thought that
yeah,
goes
like,
into these
right,
interactions before they ever happen.
What's that?
right.
yeah,
That's an
like, I'm
awful
not
lot of
fearful
thought
of
that goes into these interactions before they ever even happen.
Yeah,
Mhm.
or like I'm not fearful of confrontation, but I'm fearful. What I realize is like after I have a confrontation or I feel like I address myself, and this goes back to kind of that haircut thing, whereas like, am I going to be acknowledged after that? You know, and it's kind, I feel like that's the same wound, but like on two different sides of it. On one hand, like what Jordan's saying is like, if I have to have this confrontation, is it going to end badly for me? And my fear is like, what if I don't get to have the confrontation?
So I think part of this one is we want to really pay attention to language.
Mm-hmm.
Right, Jordan, for you, if you have a patient who's coming and that you think they're looking for a certain treatment, right, that you're not comfortable with, telling them that you're not comfortable or whatever it is, or in your most professional opinion, here's what is best for them, is not confrontation. It's you being your best professional self and you're informing,
Mm-hmm.
right? But and we don't know anything about your childhood, but I can make some deductions at this point. When we bring forward old experiences, our brains will go to, oh, it's going to be a confrontation because that younger self apparently, had confrontational issues that never went well. But when we are grown adults, how often are we actually in a confrontation? I mean, honestly, when's the last time you had someone in your face yelling at you and screaming at you?
It's been a
Like a
while.
week or
Right. But the brain doesn't know that, right? Because stress, 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 trauma's, trauma's, trauma, and it sits there. And then that fear, because your brain doesn't know, is the stress of today different from what I dealt with years ago if it's not been processed? And my gosh, wouldn't it be cool to be able to sit and read a chart and say, oh, well, let's just see how this person is and we'll take it from there. And I'm gonna give them my best recommendation for what we can do. And if they choose not to take my recommendation, there's a billion providers out there. When we
Yeah.
live in fear of this, I see this a lot in the PMHP groups and it drives me nuts. I'm going to tell you the truth. Stop worrying about your Google reviews. Stop it.
I know it's stupid. And
No, it's not stupid. It makes perfect sense given what's going on in your nervous system. But you guys are in this class because you want to be the unicorns of the PMHNP world, right? You know there's more than meds. You know you can do better. You know you can help people on a deeper level. And I promise you, and I don't say this often, if you apply what you learn and you use it with patients, you're going to change lives in meaningful ways that you cannot even begin to imagine. And those people are going to rave about you. Even if 5 people complained on Google, if one person goes to their friend and says, oh my gosh, I went to Jordan, I've been in therapy for years, he did this thing. And where did Erica left us for a minute, but in 24 hours, she has a whole different perspective from up until yesterday. This awful thing was really like distressing to her. That, my friends, no pill will ever, 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 ever do. And the magic of it is I didn't even really do it. Erica's brain did it. Her ability to step in and trust the process did it. But we got to be in our best selves and have our nervous systems under control, because as we get into understanding vagal theory and all that good stuff, your vagus nerve impacts the people you're working with. It sets the tone. Remember last week I said I'm going to talk about attunement all the time. Part of why we're having these discussions and you guys are triggered is because you didn't have people who were attuned to you when you were kids. And because they weren't attuned to you and guiding you based on your needs, your nervous system got dysregulated. Now here we are decades later, and you're having reactions to normal everyday things that other psych MPs deal with all the time. And you should be able to move through them without this old nervous system stuff coming in to your experiences. So it's going to be really important to be paying attention to these things that you're noticing. There is no shame in this, and there's nothing stupid about it. And the more we learn about DNMS, I'm going to drill into you. There are no bad parts. There are no stupid parts. There are just parts of us that are wounded. And they created this approach to life in this way to protect you. And when you were a child, you did the best you could, but those child ways don't serve you today. And so this is about rewiring those systems and bringing, updating the old information so that the parts of you that are stuck in the past. Imagine today, Jordan, if you could just sit down and you're like, oh my gosh, I have a new client. And you're reading their whole history, like, my gosh, this is terrible. I can't imagine being this person. But you're still in your calm self saying, I'm going to do the best that I can. And look, I've had people come who have personality disorders, I've had some pretty awful situations. But I'm able now to see it for this is this person, this is an issue that they've got. I'm going to own something if I've done it wrong and I need to acknowledge that, right? I just missed a appointment a couple weeks ago. I never ever do that, and I did. Yeah, I got to own that stuff. But we got to remember, working with trauma, you're going to have people who are not ready to deal with their trauma. You're going to have people who want to sit in their trauma. And we have to give them permission to do those things. You're going to have people who show up and say, I'm here because this is what you're supposed to do. This happened to me and you're supposed to go to therapy. Well, that's all fine and well, but it's not going to do anybody any good if you're doing what you're supposed to do, but you're really not invested in it. And sometimes the most empowering thing we can do for someone is to give them permission just to live their life however they see best. And recognize that even though we want to help as many people as we possibly can, sometimes the best way you can help them is to send them on their way, or to have boundaries around what you're doing for them, and then let them make their best decision while protecting your own peace in the process. So Jordan, for you, I would really start to notice now that worry of confrontation, that feeling, when you're reading the chart and you're like, oh, these awful things are going to happen. First of all, let's change the language, because it's not going to be a confrontation. Because again, I'm going to ask you, the last time you didn't tell a client something they wanted to hear, did they come across your desk and take you down? Or were they just irritated and upset?
Yeah, that.
Right. So when we have parts of us that are kind of stuck in old stories in the past, we want to update the information. And sometimes it's just with shifting the language a little bit. Let's call it what it is and figure out how best to move through it. Also, while acknowledging the feelings. Okay, yes, I am nervous that this person is going to get upset with me. Is my most adult self nervous, or does this feel younger? What would your answer be, do you think?
Oh, it's younger for sure. It's a part of me that is very worried about getting in trouble, or is like kind of the theme, or like a people pleasing sort of part that's like, if this person's disappointed in me, or if I make this person upset, or I let them down from their expectations, right? Like I have failed them,
Right.
yeah.
So what happens when you're a child and that happens? You get shamed. You might get punished physically or emotionally. My mom's great form of punishment was, I'm not going to talk to you for a week. No, I was the kid who tried to do everything perfectly, but I would still, I had a stomach bug one time and my mom gave me this metal pot to throw up in because I wasn't making it to the bathroom. And then months later, we had a spaghetti dinner at the church. And I was like, oh, it's my puke pot, because my mom had taken that pot to the church. It had been washed 100 times, but I was like 8. The woman didn't speak to me for like a month after that. How dare I embarrass her? And all that does is leave a child to sit in the shame of it all. I just innocently made a comment and I'm that bad and awful that my mom won't speak to me for a month now. And then that gets you in your head, like, I got to watch everything I say and I must be that rotten. And so that's the punishment in childhood. But in life today, as grown adults, if someone's going to give you a hard time about something stupid that you should have never gotten a hard time about, then you get to go, this is a you issue. It's not a me issue. And Okay, move along. But when that little child is still stuck in the past, he doesn't know that. So it's
Okay, so
important. Go ahead.
oh no, I was just gonna say something funny. So my daughter's 16 now, but when she was like 10 or 11, I was driving a couple kids in the car, a bunch of like preteen girls, and one girl was saying something, and the other girl said, "That sounds like a you problem, not a me problem." And I was so impressed with her because I was like, "Oh my God, I never would say that." And I was just like, "So that's exactly what you're saying. Like that's a you problem, not a me problem." And I remember it's just like I always like kept that in my head. I actually use that in session. I'm like, well, is that a you problem or is that a them problem? Like, which I learned from like literally an 11-year-old girl.
Yeah, so I wouldn't necessarily have to say that to everybody in our lives, right? But we can in ourselves say, wait a minute, is this me inserting myself into something that really, Jordan, the second I know it's younger me, I already know I'm triggered, right? And so what information does that little boy need in the moment? Is he going to get into trouble?
Not now.
Right. And nor should he then, probably. And so what we want to help people learn to do, and this is my challenge to you, is when we get triggered, we are getting pulled back to the part of us that's stuck. So he's in a place where he's terrified somebody's coming to get me. Somebody's upset with me. Something's wrong with me. He needs now to come into 2025. He doesn't know he's not in that place anymore. And when you can grab him and say, no, you know what? Look where we are. You're in this office that I created. I went to school. I got the education. I'm able to do this. So I'm not going to come hang with you back there because the lessons you learned back then were lies. So you come be with me now because you're not a helpless little boy. You come be with me where we've got power and we're smart and we can handle this. Oh, I could see Jordan at our workshop, man.
You're already doing it. Yeah, this is making me feel things because I mean, it's true. I know that, and I have worked very hard, and those parts of me do need updating to see because, yeah, it's not, it doesn't fit the script anymore, right? Like the blueprint
But
needs
here's the thing, to the part it does,
right,
they're
absolutely.
still there.
Mhm.
And the beauty of DNMS is when we get into it, you'll see, we do something called resourcing, which is where, we find your most adult self who is kind and caring. And that's going to go help him heal and have his needs met and grow up. There's no shaming him out of it. Like and that's when we bring the conscious mind on board. And we want to tell, this is why so many people have trouble with their inner child, because they're constantly trying to tell their inner child, don't feel that way, don't feel bad. You're not there anymore, but we're doing it cognitively. And the part is in the subconscious mind. It's not buying any of it. No matter how much you want to say, you got it. They're like, nope, I'm scared and I'm stuck. So we have to drop down into the subconscious to get to that part and help it heal. So just have compassion for them. Anybody ever watch Rocket Man?
No, is that the Elton John movie?
Yeah. Here's the best homework you're going to get this week. If you get a chance, watch it.
Okay, I will.
It is you're going to see massive attachment wounds in real time. You're going to see him growing up, his relationship with his dad, how his dad rubbed in his face, how much he did not love or care about him. All he wanted was a hug from his dad. And so it opens and ends with him checking himself into rehab. And when he finally heals and moves forward in his life. And I'm not going to spoil the end, but I'm going to tell you, I've seen this movie probably 10 times, and this moment still makes me cry. But you will see at the end, pay attention to the one connection he makes that helps him move forward. So if anybody watches it this week, you got to come back and tell us what was the one connection he made at the end of the movie that he finally starts to move forward from there. The most important connection. Anybody else? Who do I hear from? Stacy. Do you notice any triggers this week?
Yeah, but can y'all hear me?
Yep.
Um, but I was really surprised that I had to stop because of the homework. I had to stop and say, exactly what is a trigger? Because the big ones, it's easy, right? To say, oh yeah, because and that happened like maybe a year ago, right? Well, you don't know, but so then I was like, trigger? Do I even get triggered? And I had to really stop and just really think through it. But in any case, what I did was on Friday, I didn't get, so I'm thinking this is the trigger. On Friday, I'm supposed to get paid. I work for the VA and open up my paycheck, it's 0. Um,
Mhm.
Now the VA is getting paid. So it's not about the government shut down, the VA healthcare workers, because Congress approves their thing a year in advance. My mama had a stroke. Oh my God, that's so many triggers there, but that wasn't this week. My mom had a stroke September 29th, so I've been out taking care of her, but I have like 300 hours of PTO. So I should have got my check. When I called my boss to ask about, hey, what's going on? Where's my paycheck? She's like, oh, I didn't get a chance to put your time in.
Oh, geez.
So okay, so what I felt, so again, going through the homework, I had to stop and think about what did I feel in my body? Because of course I didn't read the homework in advance, right? I did this like 2 nights ago. Um, what did I feel in my body? All I felt like, I'm sure I felt tense when I opened it. Then when she gave the response, I wasn't overly shocked because this has just been a situation. But I felt like I wanted to run.
The flee.
Meaning, yes, meaning I don't want you to have this much control over me. I don't like that you have control over me. I don't like that you get to determine whether or not I get a paycheck. I cannot allow anybody to have that kind of control over me. I've got to get my practice rolling. This cannot work. This cannot happen. I've got to go. I've got to get out of here. So, is that a trigger? Maybe.
Yeah, I think a flee response is like, I know um anytime I've had to have a conflict with a supervisor, like I had one thing where I had a supervisor who told me that she purposely wasn't documenting things because she didn't want to have to call CPS. This is when I worked in addictions. And I told her, I mean, not right away, but like I thought about it and I came back and I was like, well, you have to call CPS or I have to call and report you on your license, basically. And then she did call, but there's something about confrontation that triggers that, I think, or
I,
having it's like, all right, if you're not going to police yourself, I need to police you. Like we need to
I
hold in
think
our
there's
profession.
it could be
Sorry, go
both
ahead.
though too, right?
Okay.
Where, yes, as professionals, if we're in a work situation where someone is that flippant about your paycheck, yeah,
Mhm.
I don't need to stay in this place. But we want it
Yeah.
to come from a place of I'm not instantly triggered and now I gotta run versus, okay, I see it for what it is. I'm not in a place that really is supporting my growth and supporting me as an employee. And so I mean, I'm in that position. I refuse to give anyone the power to write my paycheck or determine my schedule or any of that anymore because I want to be in charge of my life. But we want it to come from that place of that's why I'm doing it because I'm a grown adult who's got the ability to create this practice and do what I want to do versus this person has used and abused me and has completely disrespected me and now I'm shut down because of it and I just want to run away from my job. So for you that would be, checking in with that and what is the feeling that goes with I mean, that's a very frustrating situation and it pisses me off for you. Like for someone to be that flippant about anybody's paycheck. Nobody knows what your life is like and if you're living paycheck to paycheck to just assume like So I think it could be both, right? It's a here and now problem, and it might be informed by past experiences with people who've acted like this.
Um, so thankfully, like I didn't go put in my 2 week notice, right? Or anything like that.
So, and
But
that would be a trigger, right? If you're just jumping and I resign, I'm done.
right.
Okay.
Yeah, I resign, I'm done. I mean, I know though that I can see that it's getting worse. It's been a journey with this lady, and I can see that it's getting worse. But I also know that growing up, um, I would from the age of 5 years old, I was always constantly saying, when I grow up, if I don't like something, I'm gonna leave. If I don't like, how I'm being treated, because I felt so powerless all the time with what was going on in the house. And I just made all kind of pacts with myself that, I didn't want to feel powerless when I was not going to let anybody control my life. So, I mean, that led to things when I was earlier, like the relationship wasn't going, I didn't feel like it was going well. There was no kind of stick to it, let's work through it kind of thing. It was like, okay, bye, I'm out of here.
Well, and that's, when we look at things like complex PTSD and people having a lot of attachment wounds like that, they are very black and white issues. And that's what we tend to do, right? There's no, I mean, a couple of you have said things tonight that we were at the extreme end of the spectrum, all or nothing. But really, life is in the gray. Life is in somebody can forget to put in my time, and I'm going to figure out how to move forward without jumping and resigning immediately. Life can be in the gray. I might have someone who's a new client and I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt, but then they show up and they're a total jerk, and now I got to deal with that. But I'm not going to just fire you and be done with working with patients. But that old part of us that's, and that comes from the child brain, right? It's very immature and doesn't know how to think through situations. And so, of course, the answer is I'm going to do the extreme opposite of what I'm dealing with. But then we end up out here and we're not like in the gray zone where life is lived for the most part. So we're going to talk about that and how to help people get there and how to help y'all get back in that space.
Stacey, I thought it was interesting that you shared that piece about like when you were younger and like if this happens, I'm getting out of here, right? The powerlessness, because when you were describing that story about the paycheck, like the word that came to my mind from you was like the helplessness or almost like of that moment. And like, I rely on this money, right, to make ends meet, whatever, and to not have that, like that would feel very like free falling-ish to me. So yeah, feel for you in that
Yeah.
situation.
I do have a thank you so much. And that's exactly, I'm glad at least like we got things in progress that, my exit plan is working out. But I do have a question. So, like for instance, tonight I came on an hour late. Uh, Before, maybe a couple of years ago, I would have been like, I would have really freaked out and I would have thought, um, oh my gosh, they're going to think this, they're going to think that. Maybe I should just not, maybe I should just drop out right now. Um, really went into kind of overdrive with that. Tonight, I didn't go into overdrive, but it crossed my mind. It didn't stay there, but it crossed my mind and I still feel butterflies. Is that still trigger, but just
Well, if
to a
you're feeling
less
the
degree?
butterflies, probably. Like, there's a little bit of a discomfort because you were an hour late. Honestly, it wasn't even a thought in my head. So, I mean, that, that kind of gives you, we create discussions in our own brain about what other people are thinking that they probably aren't even thinking it. But what we want to help you do as you help your clients do this as well, as if you had shown up and I was like pissed off and making negative comments about Stacey showed up late and she doesn't care, right? What are your options?
To confront you about it?
No, just
You could say something to me about it. You could decide,
yeah.
well, this is a person I'm not giving my money to and I'm not going to learn from. And I'm moving on. Right? We are all adults here, and we can only be responsible for ourselves. And kudos to you for deciding I'm going to come anyway. Because that would have been into that all or nothing. Okay, I'm late. I'm done. And then you're only hurting yourself in the end. We'd all been like, man, where's Stacy? Our Brady Bunch window is now a whole short, which it is anyway tonight, but. And you would have been missing out. I actually had somebody the last cohort, about 3/4 of the way through, had something happen in her life and she shut down and she was out. She's like, I'm done, I quit. And by that point, everybody really gotten to know each other really, really well. And I wrote her an email and I was just like, we care about you. And if you need anything, you just let us know. But I respect your decision. She came back the next week because she realized it was a gut reaction, the all or nothing. And this was a place for her to connect with people who get it. And everybody's on the same mission to help others heal, help themselves heal, and just to be a better person. And the best way that we do that is we just show up for ourselves to begin with. And if somebody's got an issue with it, you don't need to be around them.
Sometimes I
that
look at
simple.
it, I tell people it's like the participation trophy, which I know everyone, like, that was like the thing that people made fun of for a long time, but a paycheck is a participation trophy, just showing up, even if you don't think you should or are worthy to, is worth something and should be celebrated. Like, if you show up, like, you're already halfway there.
Well, and also, not for nothing. Is this program something you want to do?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, are you asking me?
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I know from our conversations how badly you want this.
Badly.
And I will tell you all, and this is one of the hardest things to go against. Our brains are built to go to the negative and what is familiar. And so if what is unfamiliar to me is to step into thing that makes me feel really good and excited, my subconscious mind may figure out a way for me to shut that down. Because this
Oh,
is
that's
out of my
bad.
comfort zone. Huh?
That's bad. Like, you're a whore. Like, that's a bad feeling. You're a
Right.
bad girl.
And you don't think about it that way, right? But it feels so
Yeah.
icky that you're like, wait a minute. Nope.
You're yeah.
A lot of people will call that self-sabotage. But in reality, it is your subconscious mind driving, wait, this is out of the comfort zone. And even though your comfort zone is not comfortable, I want you to stay here.
Mhm.
I believe that 1000%. Just as I believe
Yep.
everything else that we've discussed. But I definitely can see that related to tonight.
So when you think about the decisions you're making in your lives now, think about, okay, what feels heavy? Showing up for myself, not. Okay, well, showing up for myself feels good. But then why am I pulling myself away from it? Well, then there's your tip that there's probably a trigger here. And I'm going to step boldly into this because this is about rewiring your own brains as well, right? Until eventually this becomes where the wiring is. It becomes not a thought in your head. Of course, I'm going to show up for a class that makes me feel good because I'm trying to improve my life and improve my clients' lives, and I got this. So kudos to you all for showing up. Kudos to you all for doing your work this week. I'm glad that this stupid classroom opened up and finally worked. I realize we're a little bit over. We do need to set dates for this workshop. It sounds like neither the weekend of the 20th nor the 27th is good. Are any of you able to come during the week?
I would love to come during the week.
I
That
could
would
do
be
that.
awesome
Not
for
come
me.
during the week.
I could probably make it work. I mean, I'm my own boss, but so practice is closed then.
No, I bet your boss will give you the time off.
Yeah, that's right.
So I really would like to do it in February because I definitely don't want to go into March because we want you to have the workshop so that we can start doing consultations as you're applying everything. Otherwise, we're going to run short on time with your consultations. So we can either do Valentine's Day weekend, which I have a feeling people don't want to do.
I'm fine with that. We float all our holidays in my family and birthdays.
Well, it's up
So,
to you guys. We either do Valentine's Day weekend or we'll pick some weekdays Or we could even do like maybe the 15th. Well, it would still involve you getting here on the 14th though. I have the whole month wide open. I'm devoted to you guys and one other thing I'm doing. So
When are they available at that place that you bring us to? Like,
when
do
is
they
it?
have any restrictions?
No, it's an Airbnb.
Oh, okay. All right.
I don't even pick the place until I know the dates.
I'm
Okay.
open. I don't, so
So
whatever.
what about the 16th, 17th, and 18th? So then you could fly in on the 15th, so you have at least one weekend day there. And then if you need to get home the night of the
I'd be
8th,
fine with that. Yeah, that would work for me.
That works for me too.
That works for me as well, 16th, 17th, and 18th. So
Okay.
that is Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
yeah.
You guys
So
make
basically
it
we
fun because February is my birthday month, so make it fun.
Mine too. What day?
The 5th.
Mine's the 8th.
Okay,
Oh.
Aquarius.
Celebrate you guys
Yeah.
there. So like
So-
what, we fly in on a Sunday and fly out on a Thursday? Is that?
Fly out
what it
Thursday,
would
or you
be?
could fly out Wednesday night. Totally up to you.
Okay, all right. And we fly, Orlando is the best airport for
Yeah.
there? Okay,
So it'd start like February 16th in the morning, like 9 a.m. or something like that. And then Wednesday the 18th, we wrap up like sometime in the afternoon.
Usually we're done like 4:30, 5 o'clock. If somebody needs to
Okay.
get a flight that night, we'll make it work.
Okay. I'm fairly certain that would work with me. I just have to double check with my wife to make sure she doesn't have like work travel or something like that. But I'm like 95% sure that should be fine.
Hopefully it's good for Ellie, so I will email her and then we'll shoot for those days.
are you gonna like post something on Facebook, or how are you gonna let us know that that's like, all right, these are the dates?
I can post on Facebook. I mean, I will definitely let you know next week.
Okay. Okay,
But
perfect. Thank you.
yeah, I can put it, but a lot of people, oftentimes I don't know if you all don't see the Facebook stuff, so I get worried that
Well, no, because for me, the only airport, like Albany has a direct flight to Orlando, but it's like one